Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support over the years. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to wrap up our look at the Guardian cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. We have the two bonded cards to take a look at in this review. We're going to start off with the Eyes of Valusia. It is a 3-cost asset that costs 4 XP, willpower and combat skill icons, item relic and spell trait, action parlay, choose an enemy at your location until the end of the round. Each investigator gets +1 skill value while fighting, evading, or parlaying with the chosen enemy. Place 1 resource on Eyes of Valusia as a charge. As a free triggered ability, you can search your bonded cards for the Blade of Yoth and swap it with Eyes of Valusia, moving all charges from Eyes of Valusia to Blade of Yoth. It takes up a hand slot and an arcane slot. The Blade of Yoth has a combat and agility skill icon, item, relic, weapon, and melee traits. It is bonded to the Eyes of Valusia. As an action, you can spend 1 to 3 charges to fight. For this attack, you may use willpower instead of combat. You get +2 skill value and deal +1 damage for each charge spent as part of this action cost. And as a free triggered ability, you can search your bonded cards for the Eyes of Valusia and swap it with the Blade of Yoth, discarding all charges. And it takes up a hand and arcane slot. So my question is, why is this a Guardian card? It is clearly intended for Alessandra.
I actually, it is not a good Alessandra card.
Okay, see now I'm even more confused because
okay,
I can't imagine why any Guardian would want to basically buy a weapon that they have to constantly charge up with.
It is a really bad weapon. There is one investigator, I think, who really likes this card, and that is Carson. I think Carson is the person who puts this card in their deck.
I see what you mean.
I've faced a lot of the same struggles evaluating this card. I think that were I to put this card in my deck, almost certainly I am playing Carson, because the ability to boost the attack of other investigators, who I'm expecting to do the fighting most of the time, and then use the counters on a different fight test, that is where I want to be at with this card, and that's kind of the tricky part with this. The problem is that like a weapon that does 1 damage per action is just not playable, and that is what this is, because you're spending the actions at a different time.
Yeah.
So for this card to be anything you want to consider, you need that skill value boost has to be relevant, and I think the investigator that makes sense to for me is Carson. I think. And the thing is
big
that,
skill boost, yes.
Yeah, well, you can give somebody else a big skill boost, and then when at a later time you can find an enemy that's maybe a little bit less intimidating, and you as Carson can kill it without having to ask somebody else for help. That is neat. The thing also is, you asking them about this in Alessandra. This is not a card you want in Alessandra. I have played Alessandra, or I haven't played Alessandra. I played Wilson sitting next to Alessandra and wished I was Alessandra for about 8 scenarios in a row, because Alessandra looked like she was having so much fun, because that deck was just absolutely wild. It was doing all the skateboard tricks. You have way better things as Alessandra to be spending your play action on. And also your hand slots, I think, can be used for better things than this. So I do not see why you would put this in Alessandra, because even if you get it for free, you can do better. The only reason you want this is because the buff that you're getting as part of charging the Eyes of Valusia is relevant to you. And even then, I think it's kind of expensive.
I think this was a card that like was an idea without a home, that like was just kicking around the FFG hard drives, and they decided to put it in here because like it feels very Innsmithy to me. Remember like the flavor surrounding Nephthys?
Yeah.
Like this feels like that, what they're doing in here. But it sounds like, what if you really think about it, this is like, imagine this was a gun that you could spend actions to add ammo to it. It kind of feels like that. Like some sort of shotgun that you could like.
But it has the ammo efficiency of the BAR, where every action you spend is only adding 1 point of damage.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Because if you're spending your entire, like if you have a 3 health enemy, you have to spend 2 actions parlaying it, swapping to the other blade, and then attacking it once. And if you miss, you are really
done.
miserable. Yeah. You spend your entire turn to not kill a 3 health enemy. The numbers on that don't make any sense again, but I can see it very much in a Carson deck where you're already giving your actions to other players, basically, and just going like, hey, I'll spend 2 actions to parlay that enemy twice. So that, and importantly, we've been talking about non-elite on a couple of these cards in the previous videos. This card does not say non-elite. It works on the boss monster. And because it's parlay, it does not provoke attacks opportunity. You can just sit there next to the boss and just go click, 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 and you're presumably having somebody else evade the enemy or whatever happens. But yeah, your teammates are the ones who are actually doing the damage, and the fact that you have used this card 3 times means that they all get +3 on other attacks. We were just talking about the flurry of...
Yeah, in fact, what you're saying there, the click, 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 there is one use case I've found for this, and that actually is Alessandra, given that you're running haste. Because if you're running haste already, which I think is actually a really good idea in Alessandra, because she actually has a lot of things that, have activate actions. So haste is kind of like a 4th action for her. So if you're doing stuff like haste, then it goes click once, click twice, flip it over, use your bonus click on, to attack, and you get a 3 damage attack, effectively costing you 2 actions because of haste. I'm like, at that point, that's not so bad.
I actually don't want to ruin your day here, but I'm pretty sure that the rules don't allow for that exact combination, because I think after you spend the 2nd action to parlay, you don't get a chance to flip this before you have to make the haste action. So it will work on a 4 health enemy. It will work then.
Screw the rules. Okay. Remember, just use feeling. Just use your feelings now.
To make the rules even worse, one of the reasons I've been skeptical of haste in Alessandra is because they ruled that parlay is not an action type, so you cannot
go... Wait, what?
Play...
2 hours later.
So who is this for anyway? It's not for Wilson. It's for
Carson. It's for Carson.
Oh, Carson.
I feel like what the eyes of Valusia do. They just make Wilson cry. That's really all they're doing right now.
This is really not his set, is it?
It's really not. It's just like poor Wilson is just like, what did I do? Like, I had to wait like 9 sets to get released, and then you don't give me any cards. Like, what's going on?
Well, that's a whole video in itself. Is my secret theory of of what's going on with the game. And
yeah, this card is very weird to me. Like.
Yeah,
it
feels like an idea.
I will take if Veronica says that this is Carson's card, then I will believe her and just go from there, because I looked at this card. I'm like, is it for Alessandra? Because like no Guardian is gonna just want to sit there and click actions to load up a weapon when they can just buy a weapon that does the job anyway. So.
Reminder that the Blessed Blade that we talked about in an earlier video has the same exact cost. It is 4 XP. Actually, it takes 1 fewer slot. So if you just want to hit things really good, this is not the card for you. I guess there is one like very niche case for this card, which is if there is an enemy that punishes you every time you attack it. There is something to be said there, because it is only 1 fight at the end. You parlay it a bunch of times, but I think that is such a niche occurrence that I don't think elusive, for example, as a keyword is making me go, oh, this is for elusive. I'd much rather put Ofuda in my deck in that case and just play a much better weapon. I understand that if we're going to the rating, at least. I don't know if you had more to say.
No, go right ahead.
Oh, I have one more thing to say. It's a spell, which actually matters.
Does it?
And then I also noticed, because like certain investigators, I think like Marie, for example, can include it because it's a spell. Yeah, and then also it is worth noting that the fight action at the end is you can use your willpower instead. So if you really think of this as a mystic card, it starts to make sense.
Actually, no, there's another trait on this card that I completely glossed over. That might be where this is. This is not a mystic card. This is an Ursula card, because it's a relic.
Oh my god!
For some very silly reason, the Blessed Blade, which is like this holy sacred blade, isn't a relic. This lets you use willpower. This gives you +2 skill value, +1 damage for each charge spent. This is a way of dealing reasonable amounts of damage in Ursula. I'll grant you that this might be a reasonable included Ursula. It's still like not efficient, but no.
And I'll say Marie because Marie has the bonus action. Yeah, so there might be something. But yeah, it's definitely not a Wilson card. It's not a Guardian card, that's for sure. And it's not really a good Alessandra card. I mean, as you've explained to me for 2 hours. Yeah.
So basically, we spent 10 minutes talking about this card, almost 11 or almost 12 minutes at this point, just to come to the conclusion that it's a seeker card after all.
Is this another Frost token? Or it's like we just talked ourselves into corners after corner?
No, it's not a frost token.
Okay.
I want to call it a curse token because the card is cursed, but it's not cursed in that direction. It is. I would actually gonna cop out. I don't think I've taken a bless token in this series so far yet, but this is my bless token because I think that in the very specific scenarios that I've described, this card will perform to the level I would expect a 4XP asset to perform. Because I genuinely think that in a 3 or 4 player group with Carson, which is where you want to play Carson or where Carson shines anyway. We've talked about this card a lot because there's a lot of interesting edge cases, but the reality is that like the main use case isn't that great. But I think that Carson, those edge cases are going to come up a lot because you are the Guardian, but people aren't necessarily looking at you to be the main fighter. And at that point, I think this card gets a little bit more interesting. And Carson tends to have like leftover actions too. I played a Scarlet Keys campaign where I was incredibly like useful to the team, but I would often spend my actions just kind of sitting there not doing anything because my support came in different ways and obviously giving action to other people. And I think this is a good card. I would include one. That's very important. I would include one copy of this in Carson because I would not want duplicates of this sticking up my hand.
I'll agree.
Oh,
I will go with Bless Token because I have no idea. I looked at this card. It confused me because it was a Guardian card, and I was looking at Wilson. I'm like, nope. And then I was like, well, it's a parlay card, and I looked at Alessandra, and apparently that's a no too. So sounds like there's one investigator who can use this. So
Alessandra is the Daryl of this cycle. If I can make that statement, in that she's the one who just goes, yeah, game balance, don't worry about it. This is not what you want to be doing. Like, if you want Alessandra to not feel like she's solo doing the work for 3 investigators, I guess this is a good Alessandra card in the sense that it will really slow her down. But it's not like that's not a compliment to this card.
Yeah, and also the fact that you can't actually use this to kill Zamakona. Because you can't put the charges on Zamakona is kind of like really kills it for Alessandra. Because I gotta admit with Alessandra, I've played a bunch. It's like you need a way to deal with Zamakona, and it's usually backstab. But
I was going to say, have you checked your set recently? There's 2 copies of backstab in there. You're probably gonna want to use those.
Yeah, in my own deck list. Yeah, but it's like it just doesn't even solve a problem. So I don't know, man.
I have bad news about you. If you wanted to not have another 10-minute discussion about a card, only to come to the conclusion that it's very mediocre, because we are about to talk about Miracle Wish, and it's not gonna get any better.
All right. I'm just, I'm not even gonna go Blast because I feel like it doesn't make or break any builds. I'm just gonna go Elder Thing. Yeah, because I don't think it's like terrible. I'm gonna go with Elder Thing because
fair.
I can see an opportunity where like plopping, like you plop tokens down on things, or like not you plop tokens down on things. Like you give your friends little buffs, and then every once in a while you get a 4 damage attack. Like okay, like at least that works. Like I guess. Yeah, but it just doesn't feel like a Guardian card. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go with Elder Thing because it's kind of mediocre, but at least it does a thing.
We have one more card to talk about. It is the Big 5 XP event. This is Miracle Wish. 5 XP, X cost, willpower and wild skill icons favor, and blessed fast. Play after 1 or more blessed tokens are revealed during a skill test at your location. Search your bonded cards for Evanescent Ascension and put it into play. Place up to X resources on it as wishes to a maximum of the number of blessed tokens revealed. Remove Miracle Wish from the game. Evanescent Ascension is an asset with the Ritual Pact and Blessed trait bonded to Miracle Wish. If Evanescent Ascension has no wishes, set it aside out of play. As a response, when an investigator at your location would fail a skill test, spend 1 wish, and exhaust Evanescent Ascension, resolve that investigator's Elder Sign effect, in addition to all other tokens revealed during this test. And Evanescent Ascension takes up an arcane slot. So here's another somewhat confusing card in the Guardian set for Wilson. Again, Wilson can't take it, so that's out.
But
I was looking at all
contrast-
the various guardians who could take this, and most of them have elder signs that are kind of blah.
Oh,
Not particularly. I mean,
yeah.
this would be so busted in if Father Mateo could take it, but
Although,
he can't.
hashtag bless Father Mateo. We need to taboo him so he can take all the bless cards. Just saying. Just saying, folks. Just saying.
This is a
Sorry,
weird one because you need to, if you want to stack enough tokens on Evanescent Ascension, you need to have like that one turn where it's just like,
Yeah.
bless, 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 all come out at once, and then you get enough tokens on this. But I don't know. Is it worthwhile? I'm not
Okay,
convinced
so-
it is, but
In contrast to the other 5 XP card in the box, there is at least somebody in this box who can take it, which is, about as damning with faint praise as I can give a card. Kohaku can take it. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is actually, I don't want to say that's like a good card for him, but it is at least like I can see Kohaku decks that want to run this card. The tricky thing with this card, and the reason why we're going to spend 10 minutes talking about this card, is that it doesn't say the Elder Sign replaces the token you revealed. This
Yeah.
is not Eucatastrophe. And I don't really understand why not for this price tag. I mean, I think
Yeah.
because I actually maybe that's not true because I have seen what repeatable Eucatastrophe can do out of Yorick and out of Silas, and it's probably healthy for the game that they decided not to do that again. But this is not a very good effect, is the problem. The challenge that I run into. So the first thing that I did, obviously, with this card is go, okay, core set, investigators. First investigator, Roland Banks. Okay, this is a
I see
this
what
is
you're
a
saying.
+1 for each clue token. So assuming that there are any amount of clues on the location, this is a lucky, right? This turns into a lucky. I'm not necessarily like over the moon about that, but hey, getting like 2 or 3 luckies for the price, I guess. I mean, I really want it to be 3 or 4, but it's 5 XP is a lot. But then I went, okay, but Daisy's really cool with this because you get to draw like a whole bunch of cards with her tome. Oh wait, no, because Daisy's Elder Sign says it's a +0, and
Yeah.
you have to succeed in order to get the draw. So you're actually never going to get you're never going to trigger Daisy's Elder Sign with this, and I think that's the problem with this card is you're going to run into that specific problem a lot. You're going to have a very like neat use case for the or like a very neat Elder Sign, but it doesn't give you a big bonus, or you're going to have a big bonus, but then this just becomes a repeatable lucky, and do you really want to spend that much XP on just a bunch of luckies, especially
That you have to
given
set
that-
up too. You have to set it up.
You have to set
Yeah.
up in a deck that is already running Bless, so the bag is probably already kind of weighted in your favor anyway.
You know what I think happened here? I think somebody had an idea, and I think this is kind of like Eyes of Valusia. I think there was an idea there around Innsmouth time, and I think this got cut from Innsmouth, and I think it got cut for a reason. I think it's like a real salad of ideas in here, where it's like, okay, I want a high. If somebody was like, I want a high-end Bless payoff that, in the 5 XP slot for Sister Mary. Sounds good, right? Okay, Miss Sister Mary makes some wishes, and I want something, and I want to repeat. I think someone wanted a repeatable Eucatastrophe. I think is what really happened here. And then what I think was going on, I have a feeling they were playtesting Innsmouth during the during original Eucatastrophe, because I think the timelines like work out. And then someone was like, during Innsmouth design was like the Eucatastrophe taboo in Fallout, and I think they nerfed it in order to prevent repeatable Eucatastrophe, and then they never went back and like realized what they were doing, and then just kind of like slotted it. Then they kind of like slotted it in this because this is the leftover Innsmouth box. Yeah.
I mean, I think we can be a little bit more generous to this box than being the leftover instant box, because there are like there are genuine new IDs for Blessing Curse in this box.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is worth like saying is we know that, or at least I know, I don't know how closely you monitor FFG socials and watch their live streams, but they've talked about, Maxime talked about that originally Blessing Curse were extra Elder Signs and extra autofills that were just a one-off thing. And that was like the first iteration of Blessing Curse, but that didn't work. That was just like unbalanceable. And I suspect that what this card is, and it might have been from original Instrument, like that wouldn't surprise me, is what if we brought that back? What would it actually have to cost? And it turns out that I think 5 XP and you have to do a little bit of hoops to jump through. That is probably about right. But I think that, as you said, they realized that no, that is actually unbalanceable. You cannot make Catastrophe that repeatable. It is just going to be a combo card, and it's just going to make the game worse. So I actually think, kudos to FFG design or playtesters for spotting that one early and going, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. But the problem is that, the card that we end up getting, I don't think it's unplayable. I think, and the important thing, the reason I say that is, it says when an investigator at your location would fail skill test. As much as you just said, Taboo Mateo, give him all the blast access, you don't need to Taboo Mateo for him to be able to use this card, right? He can just use this card. You just need somebody else to be wild enough to run it, which, this is a cooperative game. I think there are lots of people who would be up for a game like that. I certainly would be. So, but yeah, I think you correctly identified that it says resolve an Elder Sign effect, which is very exciting, but you actually have a very narrow set of Elder Signs that this works really well with. And otherwise it just becomes repeatable lucky, which actually, I don't hate repeatable lucky. I think that the other thing to keep in mind is because I mentioned 2 core set investigators. The next one that is in that list is Skids O'Toole. Skids is a great Elder Sign for this ability. Just +2, get 2 resources, and you get Skids is gonna fail tests. He's gonna hit willpower tests that he can't pass. This is gonna make him pass. The tricky thing for me is then again, this has to fail the test. So if you're ever relying on your Elder Sign to pull or to get your Elder Sign because you're banking on that bonus effect, you're banking on those 2 resources and skids or whatever, then it suddenly becomes tricky because you have to fail a test somehow. And like that's as somebody who has played Stella nonstop for 6 months in a row, sometimes you try to fail a test and it doesn't work. The bag just goes, especially if you're playing in a bag with bless tokens because it's a bless card. So I'm glad that it isn't what would be the obvious thing to do with it, because I think if they did that, then we would be talking about, well, this card is getting tabooed, and they would probably get tabooed into this, which would be unfun. But also, it's I don't blame you for going, what do I do with this card?
So you're saying it would be really overpowered if it was when an investigator would take a test, spend a wish and make it an Elder Sign?
No, I'm not saying that. I think actually if they do that, well, I think that's less interesting and potentially worse, because then you have to do it up front rather than after you see the token. And like the ability for this to be a bunch of luckies on a stick, not bad. I think the problem with this card also is just, remember me if I'm wrong, the level 2 Olive, you have to be the one pulling the tokens for that one to work, right?
For level 2 Olive, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it somewhere else. So it really does become, this is a Sister Mary card, because you want level 2 Olive, you want some other token multi-manipulation, you want to stuff the bag with 10 blesses. And annoyingly, I don't think Sister Mary has that good of an Elder Sign. Her Elder Sign is add a bless token. What's the number on there? I don't remember.
+1, I believe.
It's like 2.
It's plus one, so it's
right.
not even lucky. So what we have come up with is we can play Sister Mary and Father Mateo to make Father Mateo auto succeed a bunch of tests and do nothing else, basically. And I'm like, I'm not. Because I want there to be lots of tokens on this thing for it to be worth the cost of inclusion. But at that point, it's like, why are we jumping through all these hoops to get all these bless tokens? Because you could also just be,
Another thought I have is, okay, so the fact that they want it to trigger after you, when an investigator would fail. Okay, I think what I think could be going on here, because even though this is much later in the video series, we have Broken Diadem and Twilight Diadem. So the way that one works is you replace a token with an Elder Sign. And I wonder if there's like a rules hole that, as like a real rules black hole that exists if you were to replace your failing token with an Elder Sign. You see what I'm saying? So if, let's say Evanescent Ascension said, when an investigator would fail spell tests, spend a wish, exhaust it, turn that token into an Elder Sign, I wonder if there's like a rules black hole there.
No, yeah, maybe, I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
see what I'm saying, but I believe that the diadem only replaces bless and curse tokens, right?
That's true. No, that's how the diadem works. I'm just thinking, if the wording on the diadem replace the token were to be on the Evanescent Ascension, I have a feeling that's closer to what they wanted it to be. But I'm wondering if there was some rules black hole surrounding if an investigator would fail.
No, because we have
changing the token. Yeah. Oh
we
yeah,
have
so you could-
catastrophe, so that I don't think that black hole is a problem. I think the other thing that I just realized when you were reading this card, because I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really paying attention when you were reading out the card. This thing exhausts. Why does this exhaust? This doesn't have to exhaust.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
This is one of those cards where just like they put exhaust on there just to be like, no, we don't want you to play this card. We actually like.
Well, okay, so
it's-
the Eucatastrophe, I pulled that up. So that one replaces a token just upon reaching 0, but it's before you check for success or failure. You see what I'm saying? So Eucatastrophe is interesting because you could draw a curse, end up at 0, play the Eucatastrophe, get an Elder Sign, and then you still got to roll. Oh wait, it's instead,
No,
so you don't roll
it's an
the
Elder
curse.
Sign. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an Elder Sign at that point. But I'm wondering if what happened here was like Evanescent Ascension, because you already hit the success fail part, whereas Eucatastrophe hits during token pulls. I wonder if there's like a weird rules hole here.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about rules holes, and also if you want another chance to use that 2 hours later insertion, what happens if I'm parallel Jim and I treat my Elder Sign as a curse token? Because it doesn't specify that it doesn't get removed from the bag, but then also I've now used Eucatastrophe so that the Elder Sign that I revealed is actually a curse token that I've turned into an Elder Sign that is now a curse token. Does the curse token get returned to the bag? Yes or no?
2 hours later.
So it sounds like with Evanescent Ascension, it sounds like what was going on here is that they had this idea, but they're trying to mash too much into one card, and it ended up not working so well. In fact, if you could make the font small enough, I don't even see why this needs to be bonded at all. It could just be an asset that you just drop into play.
This was a case of they needed. Well, I mean, the way that it works, it is a little bit cleaner with the like bonded effect, but it is. Yeah, you're not wrong. You could have just made this. Actually, no. I know why. This couldn't have been an asset because you can only play fast assets during your own turn. And you need this to be an event so that somebody else can pull the 15 bless tokens, and then don't worry about how we're getting to 15. We're not cheating, I promise. Then this becomes a reasonable card. Also, this costs X. Why does it cost X? It could have just cost 0.
I know. It feels like an idea that's needed some more time in the oven.
Yeah. Well, or maybe some less time in the oven. Honestly, like I think
over designed. Yeah.
I mean, if they just made it Eucatastrophe but stackable, I think we would at least be talking about how this is completely breaking, like game breaking, but it'd at least be interesting game breaking. Whereas this, I'm just looking at it like, at least Flurry of Blow lets me do cool moments. This doesn't let me do cool moments. It's like sits in my handle game, and I never draw more than 2 bless tokens on the same test, and I don't want to do it for 2 bless tokens. And then the one time somebody pulls 5 bless tokens, I only have 2 resources, and I feel really miserable. So if we're looking for ranking, I don't know, Cameron, if you have any more.
Is this
the only thing I was going to add was that I mean, for all the setup that this takes, the fact that, you know, besides Mateo, most Elder Sign effects are +1, +2.
Yeah.
And so you can still fail. Like, after you've done all this stuff, and it's like, okay, I drew a token. Oh, you've got that Evanescent Ascension that can help you. And you're just like, well, actually, your Elder Sign effect isn't that good. So you're still going to fail the test.
You're
and for a 5 XP card, I'm like, come on.
5 XP card that you have to set up with the X and all those.
And a lot of setup,
Like, it's like, besides somebody like Mark, who has like, for every damage on you, you get +1.
Yeah, but Mark is on 0 damage, right? Imagine you're Mark and you're on 0 damage.
Well, yeah, 0. You're still. I mean, it's still. I think there is like Safina gets a +3.
Yeah.
Like it's just rare. So yeah. How are we gonna rate this one? Let's wrap this up.
Is this what a frost token is? You go through it, and it's like meh?
Nah.
No, this is an autofill for me. Okay. This is just an autofill. This is the curse token that made you fail the test. You play Live and Learn, and then you pull the autofill. Because that's what happens with this card, I'm pretty sure. At least that's the story that we've been telling with, like, this was originally Eucatastrophe, you tried to play Live and Learn, and now it just turned into... And I appreciate them not breaking the game with this card, but to be fair, there was a long time where I thought that Scroll of Secrets was literally just a coaster, and then they tabooed it, and now it's actually a playable card. It is not out of the realm. There's a lot of words on both of these cards. If you change some of them, maybe something fun will happen. But Right
Yeah.
now, it's just an autofill, and I don't want to spend another 5 minutes discussing possible taboos. So I'm just going to say autofill. We'll see how time treats this particular one.
You know what I'll say? I'll say auto fail. Go look at a future video that with the broken diadem instead for your bless curse payoff.
Yeah, because that card's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Auto fail. Look at that one instead.
I'm going to give it an auto fail just because Wilson deserved something. Like, just anything. Throw the guy a bone, really.
Oh my God. You're right. You're right.
Like,
Wrong, but also for all
this card has too many. It makes my brain hurt, and I feel bad.
It
for
doesn't
Wilson,
do what you think
so-
it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Wilson still doesn't get anything. Yeah.
So auto fails across the board. Maybe they'll taboo it. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? Well, that is going to do it for the Guardian cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale. We have been joined by our special guest, Veronica. Thank you very much for joining us, especially at sort of last minute. But you stepped in, and I think you had a lot of great things to say about the cards. So thank you very much.
That was a wild ride, you two.
Any final thoughts about the Guardian cards as a whole?
Yeah.
I
That
just
was a
feel like
wild ride,
Wilson,
and
poor
none
Wilson,
of it is for Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson doesn't have a lot to. He just looks at the card pool and shrugs and.
A real fixer-upper.
That was definitely one of our wilder series of videos. For the way the cards mesh with the game itself and the investigator they're for, and
Well,
weird, wild stuff. So we'll see how Kate goes.